Have you ever made a mistake and immediately thought, I should have known better? How did I not see that? After everything I've learned, how could I still make this mistake? If you've ever asked yourself those questions, you're not alone. In fact, that way of thinking may be one of the biggest mistakes we make. Somewhere along the way, many of us started believing that maturity means making fewer and fewer mistakes, until eventually we stop making them altogether. But life has a way of humbling us just when we think we've figured things out. Life introduces a lesson we've never had to learn before, and suddenly we're beginners again. The truth is this: making mistakes isn't a sign that you've stopped growing. It's often a sign that you still are. Learning is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey. And if learning never ends, then neither will mistakes. Think about a child learning to walk. Nobody expects a child to stand up and never fall. In fact, falling is part of learning to walk. Now here's the interesting part. As adults, we somehow expect ourselves to learn without falling. We expect ourselves to build businesses without mistakes, raise children without mistakes, lead people without mistakes, love people without mistakes. And when we fail, we don't just learn, we attack ourselves. But maybe we've misunderstood what mistakes really are. Mistakes are not the opposite of learning. Mistakes are part of learning. Every mistake reveals something you didn't know before. It exposes the limits of your current understanding. Reality is simply saying, there's something here you haven't learned yet. One of the greatest examples of this comes from the Apostle Peter. Peter sincerely believed he would never abandon Jesus. In fact, he boldly declared, even if everyone else falls away, I never will. Peter wasn't lying. He genuinely believed it. But when fear confronted him, he denied Jesus 3 times. Imagine the weight of that moment, the shame, the regret, the disappointment. Peter could have spent the rest of his life saying, I'm a failure. Instead, that painful mistake became one of the greatest lessons of his life. It humbled him, it strengthened him, it transformed him into the leader he later became. His mistake didn't define his future. His response to it did. And that's the difference. The real question isn't, did I make a mistake? The real question is, what is this mistake trying to teach me? Because every mistake contains information. Sometimes it's expensive information. Sometimes it's embarrassing information. Sometimes it's painful information. But it's information, and it would be a tragedy to pay the price for the lesson, but leave without learning it. That's what experience really is. Experience isn't just getting older. Experience is wisdom purchased through mistakes. Your own mistakes become some of your greatest teachers because they're personal. You remember them, you understand them, you recognize similar situations when they appear again. That's why people say, experience is the best teacher. Not because experience feels good, but because experience stays with you. Now, let's talk about regret. Many people spend years replaying old mistakes in their minds. If only I had. I wish I never. What if? But here's the truth. You cannot change yesterday by replaying it. You cannot erase a mistake by regretting it. You can only redeem it by learning from it. Now, there's a difference between healthy regret and unhealthy regret. Healthy regret says, I don't want to repeat this. Unhealthy regret says, I'll never forgive myself. One creates wisdom, the other creates self-punishment, and self-punishment has never made anyone wiser. Finally, here's something I wish more people understood. We cannot avoid every mistake. Life is simply too complex for that. New seasons bring new challenges. New responsibilities bring new lessons. New opportunities bring new mistakes. Even the wisest people still make mistakes. They're just making different mistakes than they made 10 years ago. What we can control is our response. Will this mistake become a prison or a classroom? Will it become a reason to quit or a reason to grow? That choice is always ours. So the next time life humbles you, don't ask, "Why did I make this mistake?" Ask, "What is reality trying to teach me that I couldn't see before?" Because making mistakes is inevitable. Learning from them is a choice. And perhaps the greatest mistake of all is making the same mistake twice, simply because we spent more time regretting it than learning from it.